live stream. Let's see, 10:03. All right. So today may not be a long lesson. Today might be a short lesson. Our Torah portion was only for a few chapters, chapter number 23, 24, and just a little bit of 25. 24 was a long chapter. And what we've learned this week is about the life of Sarah. And what I want to do is I want to share my screen with you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Let me move this out the way so I can see. Okay. The name of our Torah portion is called Kaye Sarah. And Kaye literally means the life. But it's a yay, so it means lives. But really what it is, grammatically, they're letting you know that her years of her living. But if you notice in the Torah portion, it didn't talk about her life. Did you guys find anything in there that said anything about the life besides she was how old when she died? You guys know I'm going to be testing. How old was Sarah when she died? 127 years old. Okay. She had Yitzchak when she was 90. Okay. So this makes Yitzchak 37 years old. Okay. Abraham was 100. Okay. When he had Yitzchak, same time. So it makes him 137. These numbers are important because you want to get an idea about what's going on and literally where they are in their life. And you can see what they've accomplished. You can see their range, the maturity and what Yah has been doing. And in order to understand someone's life, you have to be able to take account of their days, just like Moshe told us to learn how to count our days, because our years go by like a night's watch and they're nothing. They just go by, right? So we only have this opportunity in which we live in, the days which become years. That's your life, okay? So when they're talking about the Kai of Sarah, they're going to mention to us not anything that she's done, or what we're looking at as the things that resulted from her life. That's what you're looking for. I need to write a little bit clearer today, Dawid. We're looking at the results of her life. That's the only reason why we're talking about Kai Sarah, okay? Or Kaye Sarah, is to look at the results of her life, right? So when we looked at her life and we understood her life the whole time for the last several weeks, we've been talking about her life, okay? So somebody tell me, what are some of the things that Sarah experienced?
Grief.
She experienced grief. What else did she have?
Must have been some fear involved when Pharaoh was going to come get her.
Yeah, he did. He did take her, and she got that how many times? How many times was she abducted? She's abducted at least twice from what we know, right?
She experienced the downside of beauty.
Yeah, there's a downside. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah.
So she experienced the downside of beauty, right? Because she was taken because of her beauty. They didn't take her because they valued her life. They were looking at her outer appearance. Okay. She did deal with that grief, Dr. Yared, and she dealt with that because she couldn't have children. She was not able to have children. She was barren, which was very humiliating. Okay. She was humiliated. Humiliated. She's humiliated. What else?
She experienced joy in giving birth.
Yeah, she did. She did that in the late part of her life. At 90 years old, she has some joy. She did.
The miracle.
Yeah, she saw that miracle.
Yeah, I was saying the miracle of she experienced the Most High. She
Yes.
spoke with him. She
Yes, she had
experienced great miracles.
yeah, she did. She laughed and she got caught for lying to the Most High in her inner person. See, she got a lot of grief, going back to Dr. Red said she got grief from her slave girl. Her slave girl gave her a lot of problems, tons of problems. You know, somebody started, you know, throwing their nose up to her. Like, you know, I don't have to listen to you. You see, she saw that the son that was born to her through the slave girl, you know, he was doing some things which he embarrassed her because of the way that he was acting, even though he was raised by his mother and Sarah, because she did raise him. There was something going on there too. And these things, huh?
You have impatience as well.
Yeah, yes. Okay. She wasn't impatient, but she did kind of get fed up with some stuff. So she was a normal human being, right? So all these different parts of her life, she was taken, she was abducted, she was honored, matter of fact. And she was honored by kings. The kings had honored her. Pharaoh honored her by giving, you know, all the wealth that Abraham had received from Pharaoh. She was honored by Abimelech because of this 1,000 pieces of silver that was given to establish her honor, that she wasn't defiled by him in front of the people. She was honored by Abraham. You know, he listened to what she had told him in regards to what he needed to do. What else? What else can you think about her life? I'll say that she showed great resiliency, and there was a lot in which Abraham went through that she went with him or experienced with him. So she was like a teammate, like everything he went through, she went through. She actually received the blessing. What was the blessing, someone?
To be the mother of many nations.
She's going to be the mother of many nations. And out of those nations, you are going to have what? Kings, princes, okay? Nobles. You understand? You're going to have great people to come out of you. So she went, her name, Sarai, means princess, but she went from a princess in which she graduated to a queen. You see? But she was Yahweh's princess, okay? But on earth, she's a queen, right? Her husband was a prince. According to our Torah portion, the people of Ket called him a prince of Elohim. They recognized his power, okay? Yah is our king, and we're the prince and the princesses, okay? Her name Sarah, it was changed. She had a name change from Sarai, which is mockery, to Sarah, right? Which means princess, okay? We discovered also too in her life, somebody tell me about, I'm gonna erase all these things. Tell me, what does the two letters in her name, the sin and the resh mean? And what I mean by the sin is the S and then the R, the resh. What does those two letters mean, if you can remember what I told you?
Protection of the head.
Yes, it's the turning of the head, okay? So I'm erasing all this. So the two letters is a sin, which is a S in Hebrew, okay? Let's call it I say it's sin, forgive me. It's a samak. Okay. The samak. The samak is this letter. The next one is a resh. And the resh is the head. And this means to turn, because it has to do with a thorn. And what you do with a thorn bush is you turn away from it. So she is to turn the heads. And her name is inside of the name of Yisrael. Okay. Meaning that Yahweh, the Elohim, he's turning his head. Who? Yisrael's head. The objective is to turn the heads. So what he did was he gave us a mother who would be able to help us understand that. Yisrael is supposed to be beautiful, but also too, Yisrael has a purpose. And that is to turn heads. Right now, we're turning heads because of our gifts. We turn heads because of our beauty. We turn heads because of our culture and our style. We turn heads because of our hair and our skin tone. We turn heads for these reasons. But Yah chose this family and chose this in particular woman for us to learn from, okay? The name of the series today that I have for you is called Appointed. I want you to understand that you are appointed by the King of the universe, okay? And you're appointed. And the way that you're appointed is he chose you out of a family, okay? And in this family, we have individuals that we've learned about over the last several weeks, and we understand that their names were changed. We understand that he's graduated them to newer levels, right? I'm giving you the level that I need you to work from, okay? Let me see here. Make sure you keep your devices on mute until you're ready to respond to a question or ask a question. So listen what the Creator says through the prophet Isaiah. He says, listen to me, you pursuers of justice. That word justice is mishpat, and which we understand is Yahweh's, zedek, which is Yahweh's rulings and righteousness. You who seek Yahweh. So I'm talking to the individuals that are pursuing mishpat. I'm pursuing the ones who are pursuing this, the ones who are seeking. I need you to consider the rock from which you were cut. Okay, so you were cut from a rock, right? And a quarry that you were dug from. All right, so two different things, two different ideas. One is on the outside, okay? And one has to be dug out, which means I had to dig for it. Okay, two different areas. One is where you can see it. The other one, I have to go and find it. Okay. And so he says, not only do I want you to consider the rock, okay, I want you to consider this rock from which you were cut. I also need you to consider Abraham, because Abraham is the rock that I'm asking you to consider. I'm asking you to think about this, okay, which is your father. Okay, that's your rock. And this is for the people who are pursuers of mishpat, okay? Sarah, who gave you birth, and Sarah mean the rock and the quarry. She's the quarry. She's the one that you were dug out from, who gave birth to you. And that I called him, who? Abraham, when he was only one person. Then I blessed him and made him many, okay? So I blessed him, who? Abraham, and I made him many. The many that you're talking about is you. Plural, not singular, plural, you. Okay? Of course, singular, then you come together, you're plural. That's the many. That's who I'm talking to. Okay? These individuals that I'm looking for, and I'm asking you to listen to me, is the purpose of the study today. God's asking us to listen to him today because he's talking about this quarry, this place where I dug you from, okay? And I need you to understand the results of that. What is the results of that life of this woman, okay? What we understand is that you and I are appointed, okay? I will say to one of the girls, please lower the jug so I can drink. If she answers yes, and I will water water your camels as well, then let her be the one you appointed for your servant Yitzchak. This is how I will know that you have shown grace to my master. The individual that's speaking here, according to our text this week, is the servant of Abraham. Okay. And this servant is praying. He's praying to the Creator. So this is a prayer. This is a prayer, and this is a request. Okay. And this is a desire of his. And he says that I will know based on this information. I'm going to give her the test. And if she does this, then I'll know this is the one that you appointed for your servant Yitzchak. This word appointed is not just to assign, it means the one that you have judged and you adjudicated, meaning that you made a decision. The one that you put your hand to. This is the one that you chose. You understand? So I'm going on the journey and I'm going to put something in place. But I'm asking you to give your judgment on the individual by the hand of you. So I'll know for sure that this is the one that you want and that you chose. So what we understand again, everyone, is that he's requesting Yahweh to make something happen on behalf of his master. Okay. And that is only through this idea of appointment, to be appointed. Okay. That word appointed means yakak. And I want to tell you a little bit about that word and what does it mean, okay, from a Hebraic standpoint, so we can add more flavor to what we're talking about. So yakak has a meaning, okay? In it, it has a root, as you know. Generally, when you have two letters, it's going to be a parent root, okay? So when any two letters that you have, it always has to be a parent. If you have three letters, then it's going to be a child, okay? And then, of course, you have your vowels that are in part of the word. So when we look at this word over here, yakak, okay, I know that this first letter right here is a yod, okay? I know the second letter is a vowel. I know the third letter right here is what they would call a kaf, okay? And then I also know that there's a vowel again, and then here is a ch, okay? So the three letters on this is a yod, a kaf, and a ket. So when I determine like what is the root of this word, I have to find out the root, like the parent root. I'm looking for two letters. So in those two letters of which we're going to be talking about, because a child is just a representative of the parents. And this should be something that all of us can relate to. Okay. So I have children. The wife that I have, her and I, we created these children, but it took two of us to create the one child. Okay, because out of the two shall be one. So the two of us created this child, and the child has the characteristics both of the mother and the father. The child might be more like their mother than they are like the father. They just might be, and that's what it is. So let's look at what this root is. This in particular root about making a decision or adjudicating and judging something to choose is affirm. To be firm. And how do we come up with firm, you might ask? Well, if we look at the parent root, which in this case is a kaf and a ket. Okay. So when we talk about the kaf is the palm of the hand. If you can remember, what is the ket? It's the wall. In your Torah portion, there was a people called the ket. They're called the keti. Okay, which means a wall. Okay, so remember that. So a ket means wall. So this is the palm of the hand like a wall. Okay, meaning like when you make your palm of your hand like flat. Okay, and it can be like a wall, meaning the palm of the wall, right? Or the wall of the palm. So it's something in terms of like if you had to push someone somewhere, you know how you make your hand firm and then you push somebody in their back, or you push them on the backside for a little child, or you lead them. You don't do it with your fingers, you do it with your palm to kind of push them. So this one is that the one that Yahweh had chose and adjudicated for Yitzchak is the one that Yah had put a firm hand on, that he pushed. He pushed her to the place that he wanted her to go. So when this servant is praying, he said, hey, let it be this, let her be the one that you have used your hand, the firm decision that you have used to push her. And anytime that you're going to do something with firmness, you have to use what they call koach. Koach is within the same family as yakach. So we got a yod, a ket, and a yod, a kaf, and a ket. Okay. This word right here, koach, is spelled with a ket, a wa, and then a ket, a kaf, a wa, and a ket. Excuse me. Okay. So you can see here's the ket, here's the ket, here's the kaf and the ket, here's the kaf and the ket. Okay. So they share the same root. They have the same root. Okay. And a root consists of two letters that are apparent. Okay. And that's two consonants. And so these are the two consonants. The one here, and here's the second one. One here, and here's the second one. Here's the third, and here's the third. And that's why you're able to come up with this word koach. Just a little Hebrew for you, for those in my class who know what's going on. It's just a little refresher for you. So anytime that you use your hand, you have to use something to push your hand. So what is it that you think this word koach? Just take a guess. If it's firm and you're talking about pushing, okay, with the palm of the hand, what do you have to use to push the palm of the hand? What do you need?
Strength, power.
You need power. Hallelujah. You need power. That is exactly the meaning of this in particular word. Now, do you see how it's all connected? That's beautiful, Dr. Kavika. Did you see how now, if you look at how the words are connected in the sounds and the letters, you can see how it functions. So yeah, this might be the wall of the hand, but you need strength and you need power. That's exactly what koach means. Okay. And so in our understanding of what Yah does when he moves his hand and he's pushing us, it's going to be firm. It's going to be firm. It's not going to be a light push. And so every time he speaks to us, anytime he puts his hands on us, it's with strength. And it's with power. It's not passive. It's not suggestive. It's not weak. It's very, very strong. When Yah puts his hands on us, when he speaks to us, it's with strength. That's why it's with a PL. Koach is strength. It's power. You got to do it with power. And so the study about, and just keep this in mind because we're going to be moving on and on and on. When you talk about power and you talk about strength, have you noticed that David says in the Psalms all the time that you are my strength? He tells us that human strength is nothing. It's worthless. It means absolutely nothing. If you put your trust in human strength, you're not going to make it. The arms of men get weak. When you get old, you start deteriorating. So don't put your confidence in your own strength. Don't put your confidence in the strength of other people. Put your hope and your confidence in the power and the strength of the Creator. When he says, I'm going to come and get you, I'm telling you, I'm going to use the strength of my hand, which is different than anybody else's strength. It's a strength that can't even be compared. And so today we're going to focus on the strength that he showed to Abraham and that he received. We're going to focus on this strength that this in particular servant's name is Elazar that he received. And also we're going to talk about the strength of Rivkah. I decided today not to give you too much. I wanted to give you just enough for us to focus. I think sometimes that I overfeed. I want to bring you somewhere. I want you to eat. I want you to eat good. But sometimes we have to eat lean. And even if you eat lean, you still eat good and you get that what you need. Not that I've been giving you fillers, but I think sometimes, you can't process everything at one time. There's only so much protein that a person can digest at one time. It's the truth. So let's begin our study in Abraham and the strength of it. It took strength for Abraham in the death of his wife, Sarah. It took a lot of strength for him. I mean, it talked about in the Torah portion that he cried and he wept and he lamented his wife. Don't give us how much time he did, but we know from the customs that we've read about that it generally takes around 30 days or so for a person to go through this. But at this moment, we understand that she wasn't even buried yet. she wasn't buried. And he was crying and he was weeping, but he had to get and mustered up the strength to say, it's time for me to get up from the dead. I got to walk away from this and I got to make something happen. Life continues on regardless to who lives and who dies. Life is always going to go on. The journey has to continue, and you need the strength of Yah to continue after things happen in your life, especially the death of a loved one. You know, you have to continue. You need strength from Yah. And what we understand in our Torah portion is that there was this idea of Abraham going to the people of the land that he was a stranger in and said, listen, I need a place to bury my dead. Okay. All I want is a burial site, right? So he went, he said, I need a burial site. That's what I need. And you guys remember what the Torah portion said? What did the people tell him?
You can have it for free, pretty much.
You can have it for free, Dr. Uret. And what did he say?
He wanted to pay him.
I need to pay you. So what are we to learn from that?
That is free.
Hey, number one, nothing's free. That's a good one. But also too,
Abraham was an honorable man. He wanted
Yeah,
to
he
pay
was
for
not-
what he.
he wanted to pay it because you pay, that's your honor. But not only is it your honor, everyone is not only honorable, but it gives you rights and it gives you privileges. Okay, that's what real, you guys got to forgive me. You got to, it gives you rights and privileges of what they would call real property. Okay,
Ownership, man.
ownership, which comes with rights and privileges. Okay, if you don't pay for something, you don't get the rights and privileges of, in this case, is the land. So what they were saying was, you know, and they were all talking and they were all sitting at, you know, by the city gate like men do. And they were all around and they were talking to each other. And, you know, at this moment, they were like, hey, he's like, hey, I need to bury my dead. And they were like, well, hey, you know, any of us, we'll give you a site. We'll give you a burial plot right now. You don't have to ask us for nothing. It's here. We got it because you're a prince of Elohim. And all they wanted to do was to give him a burial site. But that's not what he was really after. What he was after was a place for all his dead. Listen, for the noble ones. And the place that he got was a cave. Okay. A lot of time we misunderstand this word called Mechpelah, which we're going to get into in a moment, that was not the name of the cave, but that was the land of the cave. Okay. So he ended up saying, no, I don't want that. Somebody else tell me, what did he say to the kings that try to offer him all the spoils after war? What did he say?
I think he told him no, because he wouldn't want that king to say that he was the one that did something for him or made him
Yes,
rich.
yes, you made me rich. So what it was is that Abraham understood. He said, I made an oath to Yah that I swore that I wouldn't take anything from any of you. What he understood, which we're his children, we need to understand, you can't expect anybody to make you rich except for Yah. You can't, if you're going to get something, you got to pay for it. And whatever you pay for, that's what you get. And whenever you get that, you have a right to it and it's yours. So we're going to learn about ownership rights. Okay. Nothing's for free and no one's going to make you rich. And I don't want anybody to claim any success of mine because they did a favor for me. These people were trying to do a favor. And like I said earlier this week, you don't want to receive anything from nobody that's wicked. You understand? These people, he understood these people. So why it would be contradictory if he said, well, let me take the land from you. Let me take the cave from you, but he wouldn't take any of their daughters. You understand? Because that's what this Torah portion is about. It's about him finding a wife for his son. So if he was to take the grave site, all right, or the cave from them, what do you think would happen when he's ready to find a daughter? Like if he would have took something from anybody, they could have easily said to him, well, you took the cave, we gave you a cave. And it locked him in. It locked him in. You understand? It locked them in to that relationship, and he didn't want to be locked in that relationship with them. You understand? So that's why he didn't take that for free. Okay, there's always caution. So he went into this mode of what they would call negotiations. Any transaction that we're talking about being negotiable. Okay, so Abraham got up and he bowed before the people of the land, right? Which he did this several times. He bowed, he showed respect. He was an honorable man, he was a respectful man. And this happened, all this was brought about because of the death of his wife, which is Sarah. Okay, and this has a result of her life. This is a result not just of her death, but of her life. This was something that we all have to understand, that that day is coming. So, and he spoke with them, but he showed respect to these people. If it is your desire to help me bury my dead, because that's what they voiced to him, then listen to me. And Ephron, the son of Zohar, to give the cave of Machpelah. I need that one. Okay, so I need the Machpelah, which he owns. He wanted the cave. Okay, at the end of his field. He didn't want the whole field. He just wanted the burial site. Okay. And he said he should sell it to me in the presence at its full value. Then I will have a burial site for my own. Okay. That's what I want. I have a burial site of my own. Wow. And what we understand about this word Machpelah, does anyone know what Machpelah is or what does it mean? It means double. So it's literally like a double plot of what? Of land. This cave right here was able to hold how many people? You guys know? 6. It's going to hold Avram and Sarah. Who else is going to hold? Ishmael and Rivka. And guess who else? Yaakov.
Raquel.
And who else? Which wife went in with him?
Raquel.
No, Raquel died on the side of a road.
Oh, Leah.
Leah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's who all went in. These 6 went into that cave. Okay. So it was enough room for them inside that cave. And those are our patriarchs and matriarchs. They all went into that in particular cave, okay, which he owns, okay. At the end of his field, he should sell it to me in your presence at its full value, and then I will have a burial site for my own. How much did he pay for it? $400 shekels of silver. That's how much he paid, 400 shekels. Okay, and that was negotiated. So our father was a very wealthy man, you see. There was an oath that we want to talk about, but Abraham was old. He was advanced in years, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in everything. Abraham said to his servant, or to the servant who had served him the longest, who was in charge of all he owned, put your hand under my thigh, because I want you to swear by Yahweh, Elohim of heaven and the Elohim of earth, that you will not choose a wife for my son from among the women of the Ka'anani, among whom I am living, but you will go to my homeland, to my kinsmen, to choose a wife for my son Yitzchak. What's significant about this swearing here, okay, is this idea of what you would call an Allah. Okay, that's what it is, an oath. Okay, it's an oath. Okay, and I want you to swear this. And he said, I need you to put your hand, your yad, under my thigh. I hope you guys don't get offended by what I'm about to tell you, but this is how, well, let me see if anyone knows before I do this. Does anyone know what this is really saying? Put your hand under my thigh.
that he was swearing on his loins, mentioning, really meaning the seed of Abraham, circumcision, basically.
Yes. So what he did was he was asking him to put his hand under, okay, and literally to hold his seed, which is found in a man's testicles. That's how they swore oaths. That's why, as you mentioned, Okoti, that the oath that we have is in the man's penis, which means I have to circumcise the foreskin off the penis. So the vow, the swearing here, because that's an oath, is that I need you now to put your hands and put it underneath my testicles, hold my testicles. Why? Why the testicles?
It's what a seed is.
That's where the seed is. Meaning, if you don't follow this, may your seed be destroyed. You see? So oaths that we go into is either for success or for destruction. That's why Yah says that I put a blessing and a curse. And the curse will happen to this seed. Let it be based upon something, and the only thing you can base that upon, and a seed, from what we understand, is a nun. And what's a nun or a noon? What is it? What does it mean?
Seed.
A seed of life, and life to what? Continue. That's a heavy vow to take. This is what I want you to do, because what we're talking about is the life of your seed to continue. That's what this is all about. Our coming to Yah and coming to him and being in an olah, or excuse me, an Allah with him, is having to deal with the seed. And we're dealing with continuance and dealing with life. Everything we've been discussing for several weeks have to do with life. I mean, even the judge, the Don, he's a judge, the door of life, the door of the seed, the door of continuance, in order to ensure that the seed will continue. We understand that the Creator had talked about Abraham was concerned with his heir, you know, and we know that in Bereshit 15, this is where the first time that this was even discussed. He says, sometime later, the word of Yahweh came to Avram before his name was even changed in a vision. Don't be afraid, Avram. I am your protector. Your reward will be very great. And listen what Avram said. He replied, Yahweh, Elohim, what good will your gifts be to me if I continue childless? And Elazar from Damascus inherits my possessions. You haven't given me a child, Abraham continued. So someone born in my house will be my heir. But the word of Yahweh came to him, this man will not be your heir. No, your heir will be a child from your own body. So the servant that Yahweh is referring to here is Elazar, that Abraham, mentions. And Elazar is the one that Avram now is sending to go find a wife for his heir. So during this time, we see that Yah has made a tremendous amount of blessing towards Abraham. He's increased. Yah has been his reward. Has he not been a great reward to him? Has he not protected him along this way? He's fought in all kinds of wars and everything. This is immediately after the war. So, you know, it was always, well, will these people ever come against me? Right? Did he make them very great? Yes, he gave them silver, he gave them gold, he gave them cattle, everything. And this was because of who? Because of Sarah. Because of her. You understand? So the heir, he said, well, he will be my heir and he inherits my possessions. And then he says, that's going to be continue on. Because he would have children and then all his possessions would go to them. And he understood that. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Could a master give all of his possessions to his servant if he chose? In Israel? Yes, he could. If you look in the book of Ezekiel, chapter number 45, I believe it is, it says that the prince will be able to give some of his possessions away to his servants. And of course, they'd have to return the land at the end of Jubilee, but he can give them a part of their part of his possession. And then it reverts back to any of his sons after that. You understand? So that's part of what it can happen. Okay. So Yah didn't want that. He didn't want Eleazar to be the heir. And at this moment, Eleazar is the servant that's on this journey for him. So what is this about? It's about inheritance. Abraham said to him in our Torah portion, see to it that you don't bring my son back there. Yahweh, the Elohim of heaven, who took me away from my father's house, away from the land I was born in, who spoke to me and swore to me, I will give this land to your descendants. He will send his Malach ahead of you, and you are to bring a wife for my son from there. Interesting, because he's telling him in context that the only thing that matters here outside of this wife is this land. This is what matters. What we're talking about, our Torah portion is about inheritance, and it's about this land. This is the reason why Yah, and he said, because of this, the servant was like, hey, can you, if this woman doesn't want to go, you want me to take your son back there? Do you want me to lead him back there? And he's like, no. Why? Because this is what Yah swore to me. Yahweh swore to me to give me this land. And this is what we're after. You and I are after the inheritance of our father. That's what you and I are in this for. And he said that he will send a Malach, his Malach ahead of you, and you are to bring a wife for my son from there, from the place where I sent you, which is my father's house. That's where I want you to go. There's a reason why he decided to get this woman from this house, okay, or this wife. And let's talk about it. But before we get into that, let's talk about Eleazar, okay? Does anyone know what Eleazar's name means? What does it mean?
My strength.
Nice
The
job.
help.
El is my helper. Exactly. He's an Azer. Okay. El-Azar. Okay. Right. It's right. That's his name, Eleazar, meaning that El, which is right here, my power, my strength, is my helper. Male or female? Who's the Azer? Yah calls a woman an Azer. She's a helper. This is the reason why Yah is sending this guy to find a helper for him. Not just Yitzchak, Yah's helper. Why is Yah looking for somebody to help him? What does he need her for? Somebody tell me.
Rule the nation.
He's looking to bring her so she can serve him and she can bring about the birth of the nation. That's why. Not only one nation, but many nations. Okay? Because out of her comes several nations. So this is the reason why. So Yah's intention when he told Abraham before that Eleazar is not going to be your heir. Eleazar is there for me to use him to be a helper. I'm going to show he's going to help his master. Okay. I'll say it again. Eleazar is to help his master, the father of nations. Okay. And you and I can learn a lot from Eleazar. Okay. I want you to remember this. He's there to help his master. The servant replied to his master, suppose the woman isn't willing to follow me to this land, because this is what we're talking about. Must I then bring your son back to the land from which you came? He's talking to his master. The helper is talking to the master. And the question is, what if she isn't willing? That word willing is the word that I have at the top called Abba. Abba. Sound like Abba, like, what the Greeks say Abba. Okay. Like, Abba, but it's really just Abba. Okay. It has a V sound though, like Ava, Ava. okay? Because the B side sound is, it's a soft B. So it's ava, okay? So ava is a meaning to be willing. But let's talk about willingness, because this has always seemed to be the problem for us as a people. We don't want to be willing, or we're not willing. So it comes from this word, or the root, which is this bet and this hay. Just a little Hebrew for you. And the action of this word of willingness is a need. Okay, that's the action. And this here is the concrete, meaning a box. So the need to feel the box. Okay, so this idea of willingness means that you need to feel a need, because there is a void that needs to be filled. And what we need in order to fill this box, or to fill this void, we need what you would call desire. Okay, so a person's will is their desire. So what we're talking about here is, you ask if it's your will, if she's not willing, that means that ing is continuing to have a desire, not just one time, but having a will that is bent on filling the void. Somebody tell me, why was there a void? And what voids was she supposed to fill? What void was this wife supposed to fill? Think about Yitzchak. Doctor, you
Well,
read
a
it.
heritage, oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying like a heritage of a certain bloodline. And
Yeah.
also she also comforted him after his mother passed.
Yes, she comforted him. Okay, she's going to do the heritage, like as you stated, and Dr. Red talked about building. She's to build the nation, okay, or nations. Okay, it's a great responsibility. She's going to comfort him, right? Also, too, she's there to help him, okay, because that's what to be a helper to him, to bring about what Elohim's desire is for that family, okay, in every possible way, okay. So in order for us to do that, and it's what we're supposed to learn from this, is that there is a need, okay, and there is a void, okay, and you and I need to possess what I would say called a desire in order for us to say that you need to be willing, right? So if you and I are claiming that we're willing, that means that we have a continual desire, continual desire to help build Yah's family, okay? Because you need sons, because if you look at the word build, it really in Hebrew, it talks about, it's called banah. And banah means to build. And to build, you need sons. And not only do you need sons, and you need daughters. That's what you need to build a nation and build a family. Okay. So you need both of them. You can't do it without the other. So there's voids that need to be filled. Even while Israel had went into exile, or excuse me, more specifically, Yehuda, the creator had said that when you get there, what I want you to do is I want you to marry your sons and your daughters to each other so you can continue to grow and so you can continue to build. So this idea of a void has to be filled, and that's where you get your word Ava from, okay? So here I show you what the concrete is, like the parents, the bet and the hay. And so what they do is you add an aleph onto that, and you have a filling of a void in a space or an action, to be willing to go somewhere or to do something, okay? So this is what the servant is asking his master. Like, what if this person's not willing? What if she's not willing to come and fill this void, this space that we want her to take? And so there was an oath that, again, we go over. It says, but if the woman is unwilling to follow you, right, then you're released. That's the response of the master to his servant. If she's not willing to do this, if she doesn't have a desire to follow and to do what you're saying, then you're released from your obligation under the oath, under this Allah, okay? You just don't bring my son back there. The servant put his hand under the thigh, which we know what that is, of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning the matter. So what we learn from Eleazar, from the helper, is that there was a lot of details that were given. Anytime that you're going to go into, and this is very important what I'm about to tell you, okay? Anytime you and I are going to go into any type of, what you would say, negotiation, like we saw, remember the negotiations of the land? Now we're talking about negotiating a marriage. Anytime you go in any type of negotiation, one must understand the details of that negotiation. You can't swear to something that you are not willing, or be obligated to something that you don't fully understand. And as an Eleazar, as a servant, and Yah being his helper, Yah is letting us know that, guess what? I'm going to give you an obligation, and I want you to be fully understand that what I'm about to put you under, you need to know the details. You got to understand the details. And that's in any negotiation. That's in negotiating with a car, a negotiating with a house, a negotiation for someone to come and cut your yard, paint your house. I have been looking for a painter for my house, and every time I get a painter, they don't want to give me the contract. They want to just give me some numbers, but I want a contract, and I want details of the contract. And they're not willing to, if they're not willing to write out the details of the contract, then what are we going to do? What do I have to reference? So I won't accept anything without the details. I've made that mistake before. And that's what it is. It's the contract. That's exactly what we're involved with. And you're going to see more of this during our study. So what we learn from this and what we can derive from this is that, listen, in a contract or any negotiation, you put anybody under obligation. Before he swore to anything, he wanted to know the details. This is a wise servant. This is not just some servant just to do what he just do whatever he says. I want to know the details exactly of what you're asking of me. Now, when you look at us as Yahweh's people, and he says, listen, this is the contract. You and I should be looking for the details. You should be going through your Torah portion. You should be going through the Torah, looking for the details of the obligation. If you don't do that, you're going to have a problem. If you remember what I taught you, and I'm going to continue to teach you about, is this word called hithpael. This is a verb tense. And this verb tense means this is something that you yourself is going to do. It's not something that's causative that, someone else has caused you to do. It's something that you're going to cause for yourself to do. I'm going to feed myself. I'm going to dress myself. I'm going to make myself do this. I'm going to do whatever I can. Okay. And this one is dealing with how Abraham had spoken to this servant. And in his conversation, he tells this servant that he says, Abraham answered me. Okay. Now this is a monologue in which the servant was talking to the family of the young woman that he went to, that he's telling them how it came about that he is where he's at and why he's doing what he's doing. Okay. So he's listing all the details of the oath that he swore. Okay. And listen to this. He tells them the details. He says, Abraham answered me, Yahweh in whose presence I live. He's explaining to them how he came to choose this woman. He says, Abraham answered me, my servant, my master Abraham answered me, Yahweh in whose presence I live will send his Malach with you to make your trip successful. And you are to pick a wife for my son from my kinsman in my father's house. This will release you from your obligation under my oath. And if when you come to my relatives or kinsmen, they refuse to give her to you, this too will release you from my oath. So this is a conversation. This is part of the details. And when he's expressing to this family why he was there, he let them know the oath that he was under. He gave them the details. He said exactly what his master said. He did not add or subtract of anything he said. So what are we to understand? Well, we're understand is this. There's details involved. If you're going to be on Yahweh's side, you have to say exactly what he said. Okay. Not only do you have to say exactly what he says, but you have to carry out the action as he said in order for it to be true. Okay. Then we also pick up from this is that Abraham gave him a release in two different ways. One can be released from an obligation once it's fulfilled. That's number one. Okay. The negotiations, this is the oath. That's number one. You're going to, if it's fulfilled, you're released from it. Once it's satisfied, release means satisfied. You satisfied it, you're gone. Excuse me, fulfilled is satisfied, you get released. Okay. Then he says, but if they refuse, then that will release you too. Okay. So we can see there's two. One is fulfilled. The other one is refusal. Okay. There's two ways that you can be released from an oath. Okay. Which we would call that refusal, literally like a default. Okay. But there's, of course, for us, there's consequences for this. So what I want to share with you is this. Since there's two, now you're learning something here. There's two ways that this oath can be satisfied. One is doing fulfillment, and the other one here is by refusal. I want to briefly discuss with you what Yah says about his people. This is what Yahweh says about his people in Davarim chapter number 30, 17 through 18. In context, talking about refusal. Moshe was telling the children of Israel, his people, but if your heart turns away, and if you refuse to listen, okay, the Shema, if you are drawn away to prostrate yourselves before other gods, that's including JC, Buddha, whoever it may be, and serve them, I'm announcing to you today that you will certainly perish. That's the end of your contract. You will not live long in the land that you're crossing the Yarden to enter and possess. Forgive me, you guys. I like to I'll be in it. I just don't be reading everything, but I should. So forgive me for that. I skip over words sometimes. Okay. So Yarden to enter and possess. So you refuse to listen to what? To the agreement. And you're drawn away to do some things, which I told you not to. You're going to perish. Okay. So as we notice, is this number one? Is this a fulfillment, or is this number two?
Number two.
This is number two. Okay. That's number two. Good. And the end result is it's over. You perish, you die. Okay. That's what he said to his people. Now let me tell you something about his children. This is what he says about his children. This is a rebellious people. They are lying children. Children who refuse to hear the Torah of Yahweh. That's what he says through the prophet Yeshayahu, chapter number 30, verse 9. Write it down. So we see again, there's a refusal to hear, which is, again, Shema. That means to obey. That is to listen. That is to do what he said in the Torah. Many of us, we read the Torah, we'll study the Torah, we'll quote the Torah, okay? And we might even listen to it. But a lot of us, and I'm talking about our people, will not do the Torah. The guy that I've been telling you about, that I've been studying with and trying to get him to understand, he'll read it, he'll study it, he'll quote it, but he'll refuse to do what Yahweh says. Hearing is not enough, people. That's false. It is about doing what Yahweh says. Okay? So this is a rebellious people. Okay? And he looks at us as his children. And it's nothing worse than you telling your children to do something and they refuse to do what you say. And that's called rebellion. And that's what he's saying about his people and about his children. Okay? So his children are not listening to him. He has a loincloth. which is his desire. Let me just go back so I can show you the word, the loincloth. The loincloth here is a sash that Yah describes the children of Israel as. He describes them as a sash that you will wrap around your body, that you would, wrap around your body to protect you, okay, and to comfort you. So he says, I will ruin this evil people. Why? Or who? The ones who refuse to hear my words and live according to their own, and they live according to their own stubborn inclinations. So they refuse, number two, and what they're refusing. What are they refusing? When he says they refuse to hear my words, what are they refusing? According to number two. It's only two things. It's a number one or it's a number two. You go to McDonald's, you want number one or number two. What is it? Number two is refusal. Number one is fulfillment. And what are we talking about?
The Torah.
You're talking about the Torah, but more specifically, according to what we're talking about the oath. The Torah is an oath. That's what people don't get. It's an oath. And I'll prove it to you. It's an oath. You understand? It's words of instruction that you and I promise to do. It's an oath. Okay? It's an olah, an aleph, a lamed, and a hey. Okay? That's what an oath is. It's called an Allah. Okay? And we're going to get a little bit further into that in a second. So they're refusing the oath. No, I should get into it right now. I shouldn't wait. Praise be to the living Elohim. Dr. Ured, tell me what the aleph means from an agricultural standpoint. To ox.
Strength.
Okay. And tell me what the lamed is.
Staff authority.
It's a staff and it's authority, but also too, it is used as a yoke around on the neck. Okay. That's what a yoke is a big old staff that guides, just like a staff guides and directs. So there's a yoke. You use a yoke on the neck of an ox in order to push it to where you want it to go and to lead it in the path that you decide for it to go. So what has to happen is that the master has to put a yoke on the neck of the what? Of the ox. And he's joining. And once you put that yoke, it's binding. Binding. And so that's what this idea of an oath is. An oath is binding Yah's authority to you. You're binding, you're putting the yoke of Yah, you're putting the learning of Yah, because the Laman has to do with learning as well. Learning and guiding and authority. But I need to bind you to that. You have to be in a contract. Literally, I'm binding you. When I talk about me and you going to oath, we're going into an agreement together. That's what this negotiation was. He went into an oath with them when he purchased that. That was based on kasef. That was 400 pieces of kasef, and they had negotiations. That was based on something. It's a binding agreement. You see? So you and I as a people, Yah has been saying that you and I have been refusing to do what he says. Okay? And why? Why have we been? Because he says, because they live according to their own stubbornness. Their own stubbornness and their own stubborn inclinations, which are your thoughts, who go after other gods and serve and worship them. That's the problem. The problem is that our own stubborn thoughts, we are going after these other gods and worshiping them. Somebody tell me, why do we go after other gods? And why do we want to worship them and not the one that we're in a contract with?
Because we want to be like other nations.
Because other nations, yes, absolutely. Because other nations are free willy. They can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. There's no sense of responsibility to nobody. They don't owe nobody nothing. If they didn't do well, they could go back and pray to the gods and he'll forgive them. They can commit sin and keep going back and back. And the God says, okay, I forgive you because I love you. and I've killed the innocent for you. That's what their God allows them to do. Our Elohim does not allow us to do that. You understand? So you and I are in a state of either we're going to accept what Yah says, okay? And back to that Hithpael, he says, when it said Hithpael, he was talking about, Abraham was talking about me living. I didn't get to that. Me living. I'm causing myself to live before him. I'm doing this. He gave me a command and I decided to Hithpael and live this way. And because I've done this, and because Yah will send his Malach, his messenger, with you to make your trip successful. That's because I live in front of Yah, in his presence. I've did a Hithpael. I've caused myself to do this. Nobody else caused me to do this. And as a result of my walking myself in Yah's presence, in the way that he asked me to do this, he's going to send a Malach to make your trip successful. You and I can learn a lot from that. If we were to do what he asked us to do, there will be some success. There would be. Okay. Let's talk about this Gamal. Somebody tell me what's a Gamal. There were 10 of them in the Torah, or 10 of them in our writings. What's a Gamal? There's 10 of them. There are 10 of them that were walking.
Camel.
Huh?
Camel.
Camel. Okay. So listen to this for you to always remember. Just take this G off. Okay. Which is the third letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Okay. So in English is A, B, C, D. Okay. Over here it's Aleph, Bet, and instead of a C, we got a Gimel. And that's the third letter. So what you can do is you can take off that G right there and you could put this on here and be Kamal, but you'll remember it's a camel. Easy. That's where they get it from. Okay. So a Gamal is a camel. And there were 10 of them. I want to tell you why there were 10. Okay. And what's the significance of the 10. So a Gamal, but it has a root. Okay. So again, in our Hebrew language, this is your language. Okay. Our word was a Gamal, a Gimel, a Mim. Oh, wait a minute. A Gimel, a Mim, and a Lamed. Okay. Well, remember, I told you in the Hebrew language, you got to take the first 2 letters, if that is true. There's 2 letters in here that are the parents. So in this in particular word, we see that the parent is the first and the second letter, which is the Gimel. I have to write it over here so you can understand it. This is it right here. And this one right here is a Mim. Okay. Mim looks 2 different ways. A Mim can be like this, regular, and then here's a final Mim on the end. The final means the last letter. Okay. So a Gimel, but Gimel comes from, or Gamal comes from this word Gam. Okay. And what is a Gimel? Or, it's a name of the letter, but what does it represent? Do you guys know?
So walking.
It's a foot and it means to walk. Perfect. Okay. So let's look at the image. Make these your 2 little legs right there. And you can always remember like, oh, here's the end. Those look like feet. You see, it means the person's walking. That's what a Gimel is. It means to walk. Okay. So that's the name of the letter. And this is what it looks like. It looks like someone walking. Okay. The Mim. This is mean feet or foot. And to walk, that's the function. And walking means to travel. Okay. Now, what is a Mim?
The water flowing.
Picture of water. Yes. And in water, easy, or any kind of liquid. Okay. So we can see the connection between Gamal and Gam. So what does a camel do?
Walk and drink.
They walk, they travel so they can drink water. Okay. Do you guys know how many gallons of water a camel can hold? A camel can drink up to 20 gallons of water at one time. Okay. They can travel over 200 miles. Okay. Without no water. Okay. 20 gallons when they get there. Right. And there were 10 of them. Keep this in mind. For the name for 10 in Hebrew is called Aser. Okay. Aser. This means 10 in Hebrew. Okay. Not the 10th, it's 10, the number 10. Okay. That's what it means. Okay. Aser. Just like when they ask you for your tithes, it's Asar. Okay. Aser means 10, Asar means 10th, which is a tithe. It's just a little information that you guys are paying tithes now. So let me go here right quick. To say 10, again, is called Aser, and Aser has an ayin, a sin, and a resh, okay? And so the servant took 10 of his master's camels and all kinds of gifts from his master, and he got up and he went to Aram Naharaim, which is called Mesopotamia, to Nakor city. What's interesting about this is that often we would think that he's the one who just took the 10, right? Let me ask you a question. Did he take the 10, or did Abraham tell him to take the 10? I'll put it this way. Who's the master?
Abraham.
Who's the servant?
Eliezer.
Can a servant do anything without the master telling him to do it?
No.
No. That's the reason why this is written here. It's not because the servant took 10 of his master's camels. Of just reading that, you would think that he just took it, because that's the way our mind works. He didn't just take them. The master told him to take 10. Okay? That's not of his own doing. It's of his master. His master told him to take the 10. His master told him to take these gifts. What else do we know about, what did Yaakov do when he was in the desert and there was a famine and he sent Yehuda and Reuven back to Joseph? What did he do with them? He sent what? You guys remember? He sent all kinds of gifts back. He's the one who gave them the gifts to tell them, hey, take this over here, take this, take this, take this, give the man this, do this. So what we to understand is that the relationship between a master and a servant is not complicated, but it's very poignant, meaning if I told you to do something, the master told him to take 10. He didn't take 10 of his own volition. He took the 10 because the master told him, because they're his master's camels. He didn't take what he wanted, just went in and arbitrarily grabbed some things. His master is the one who told him. So who's actively doing this? Who's behind it? The master. Okay? So we can understand that the servant's job is to do what the master asked him to do. If he told him to take 10, he took exactly what he told him to take. And there is a reason why there was 10. Okay? So going back to our Gamal, which is our camel, it has a meaning of growth and development. The actual word for Gamal literally means, okay, Gam is to walk and to travel in water, like going back and forth to the water hole. But the word Gamal, right, which is a camel is the what? A noun, okay? But there has to be a verbal meaning. What's the verbal meaning? I'm going to tell you, growth and development. Growth and development, okay? Meaning to yield, right? To yield what? A product, or to what? Produce something in order to what? Have a reward at the end. A reward is something that can benefit us. All these ideas are surrounded around the camel. All of it is surrounded around a camel. The camel is the noun of it. Okay. The verbal meaning means to growth and development. That's the reason why Abraham chose to send 10 camels. Okay. It's for a reason. Because his concern, praise be to the living Elohim, is whether or not this in particular daughter-in-law will have growth and development. Is she ready to be what I need her to be? The idea behind the Gamal is one who yields. Has she come to the point of maturity? Is she weaned? Meaning, is she ready for work? Is she ready for service? Is she ready to be beneficial to the family? Because if she's not, then she won't be the reward to my son. You see, that's the reason why he sent the camels. It's simply because he wanted to know, is this young lady, this person, is she at a point in her life where she had achieved a certain level of growth and development in order to produce and to be productive? Because produce, and our key word is to be productive. You and I can learn a lot from this study. A lot of people are missing out on it, but that's why it's on YouTube, because this is what he's looking for. So if Abraham is looking for this and he's a master and he sends out a servant to do his job and to do his bidding for him, what is our Elohim, who is our master, looking for? He's looking for growth and development. He's looking to see whether or not you and I have a yield, to see whether or not our lives are going to be productive. I'm giving this to my servant, so this will be the reward and it would be beneficial from everything. So this is the reason why Abraham is the one who picked those camels. The servant did not pick them. You see, his job is to just do the master's bidding and to do what the master sent him to do and to take what belongs to the master, to find out whether or not this woman and this young woman is at the place of growth and development, and whether or not she's going to be productive, and whether or not she's going to be beneficial to the family. And that's the job of the servant, to find out. In this, the servant had a prayer. He prayed. Gotta speed it up. He said, Yahweh, Elohim of my master Abraham, please let me succeed today and show your grace to my master Abraham. Here I am, standing by the spring as the daughters of the townsfolk come out to draw water. I will say to one of the girls, please lower your jug so that I can drink. If she answers yes, drink, I will water your camels as well. Then let her be the one you appointed, that you had used a firm hand to push towards and for your servant. That's why that word for right there is a lamed. It says la yitzkak. To what? To push and to lead. By what? Your hand. You've led this girl to your servant, Yitzchak. This is how I will know. I want to know, okay, that you have shown grace and compassion to my master. I will only know this by the test. And what he wanted to obtain was a knowledge, but he had to have prayer. So in his prayer, he's asking for knowledge, okay? And what he's asking for is for Yah to give him visual observation of something to prove that Yahweh's word is true and that he's with him. The only way that you and I will ever fully know Yah and to know what his intentions are, whether or not he's done something for us, is by visually seeing it. You would only know that Yahweh is Elohim. He says, then you'll know that I'm Elohim. When? What? When I bring you back to the land. When will you know that I'm Elohim? When you have my spirit and I cleanse you from all your uncleanness. That's when you're going to know. You and I need to develop our character like that camel. Those camels were the ones who would go a long distance. Those camels were dependable. Those camels were willing. They had a willingness about them. They would go as far as they needed to go. They were very friendly. They were very kind. They were very social. And what does it mean to be dependable? Being dependable means that you do what you say you will when you say you will. After that, you can be trusted to complete any task and do it well if you're proven to be dependable, like a camel. If you say you're going to do something, you need to do it when you said you were going to do it. This servant of Abraham did not say, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. When he went to this young woman and she said she was going to do it, he didn't ask for any interlude between the two of, well, I'll give it to you and I'll come back later and then do your camels. He was looking for something very specific because he understood what it was that his master was asking for. But if there's not a dependability, there's no willingness, there's no social friendliness, it's not going to work. You and I need to have the development of a camel. That's why the camel's named that. That's why it has the meaning, the noun and the verbal meaning. He had a prayer, but you and I need to have a prayer. Your prayer should be your desire. It is. Our prayer is our desire. Listen. So today I came. This is this man's prayer. He's praying, but we can learn from his prayer. So I came, and then again, this is in his monologue to her family. So today I came to the spring and I said, Yahweh Elohim of my master Abraham, if you're causing the way on which I am walking, okay, to succeed in its purpose, then here I am standing by the spring. I will say to one of the girls coming out to draw water, let me have a sip of water from your jug. A very simple request. Very simple. But what can we learn from his prayer? What I was able to pick up from this, and I wanted to share with you, is that he said, I'm walking, right? Cause the way that I'm walking on to succeed in its purpose. What are we to understand? When you and I go before the Creator in prayer, you have to have a desire. But the only desire that one should pray, listen to me carefully, because your desire is your will. Okay? The only desire that you and I should have is to fulfill our purpose. The takeaway from this is purpose. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a time. Everything has a season. But the most important part of our lives is our purpose. Without any purpose, there will be no progress. Without any progress, there will be no prosperity. You understand? So you and I have to possess purpose. And how do we do that? We do it through the Torah. I call on the heaven and the earth to witness against you today that I presented you with life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore, choose life so that you will live. You and your descendants, loving Yahweh, your Elohim, and paying attention to what he says, clinging to him, for that is the purpose of your life. On this depends the length of time that you will live in the land that Yahweh swore he would give to your ancestors, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Everything on which you and I do is dependent on this, but the purpose of our lives is to do these three things. Number one, loving Yahweh constantly, not when we feel like it, always. Number two, paying attention to what he says. Number three, clinging to him. This is what you and I have to understand, because that is the purpose of your life. Loving, paying attention, and clinging to what he says. That's the purpose of our lives. Without purpose, there is no progress. Progress is to bring us to a place of a destination. The destination that you and I are chasing after or seeking after is a place of rest, which is our prosperity, which is our land. You're not going to have any prosperity until you go back to the initial oath in which Yahweh has shared with us through our fathers. In conclusion, I want to tell you about Rivkah. Well, I skipped something, silence, because I got to tell you about silence. Silence is very important. When he had this experience with this woman, when she began to do all the things that she was doing, the man gazed at her in silence. He was waiting to find out whether Yahweh had made his trip successful or not. So he asked her, but matter of fact, he did not know that this was a woman from Abraham's household. He didn't know that. That's why he was gazing at her. See, she was accomplishing what he wanted her to do, right? But there was part of the element of the oath that he swore that the woman had to be from his father's house. So he didn't know who this woman was. She was part of that land, but was she part of the house? Okay. So he was gazing at her. This word gaze here means that it had to do with a storm, meaning like a very terrifying storm, lightning and thunder. And I said, well, what does that have to, what do you mean gazing? He says, like, you know how a person in a storm is so freaked out, they don't know what to do? That's how he was shocked. Okay. And it wasn't just him sitting there looking at her. He was literally like amazed, okay, by this storm that he was seeing. Okay. It was like something powerful. And so he went into this mode of silence. And he was waiting to find out whether Yahweh had made his trip successful or not. He saw things, but he still wanted to wait. He was still waiting. That wasn't enough because it wasn't going to fulfill the oath. So what this silence is in Hebrew is called dumiyah. Now, I want you guys to remember this word, dumiyah. Dumiyah, okay? And because dumiyah is a different type of silence, okay? And the silence of dumiyah is a silence to Yahweh, right? So it says to Yahweh, or to you, Elohim, in Zion, silence is praise. And vows to you are to be fulfilled. Dumiyah. There's a praise. There's something about silence that's very beautiful. You can praise Yah in silence. You don't have to praise Yah by always saying something or speaking something. You can praise Yah in silence. He does call the whole earth to be silent before him. We also find that David said his nafshi, my soul, dumiyah, it waits in silence for Elohim. My salvation comes from him. He alone is my rock and salvation, my stronghold, and I won't be greatly moved. Why? Because of this silence. Okay, so what are we to learn? We got to learn if we want to wait for Yah. Our nafshi is our soul, is our person, is who we are in all areas of our life. We have to quiet the storm. Oh, praise Yahweh. We got to quiet the storm. That's what we have to do. There's storms in our lives, and we have to, and even in the storms of our lives, you and I can take the position of a dumiyah. You can literally sit and praise Yah in spite of the storm. Oh, you better hear what he's saying today. Hallelujah. Praise be to Yahweh for the dumiyah. Now we're going to deal with Arash. Arash is this request for marriage. It's an Aleph, a Resh, and a Shin. And you say it, Arash. Okay, not Arash, but Arash. Very important. I wish I had more time if I wasn't slow on my presentation. I actually thought I wasn't going to have enough to talk about, but I do now. The Ashar, or excuse me, the Arash is a request for marriage. That's what this was about. Okay. And the question that he had asked, the servant had asked this young girl after he saw and he was in amazement, he went through a dumiyah. He asked a question, okay, which was, he said, Bath miat, okay. That Bath right there is a daughter. The mi means who, and the at is you, meaning like, whose daughter are you? Whose daughter are you? That's the question. Okay. Because that's what he asked. He says, tell me, please, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? And she answered, I am the daughter of Bethuel. Remember, I told you he didn't know who daughter she was. The son of Milcah bore to Nachor. Okay. And we know Nachor is from Abraham because he said Bethuel fathered Rivkah, and he was one of the 8 sons of Milcah, bore to Nachor, Abraham's brother. Okay. So this is the final son that they had. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about a father, and I want to talk about a mother, and I want to talk about what does it mean to be a rosh and be a head, okay? Because the word arash comes from the word rosh, okay? It has the same letters. It has a resh and it has a shin in it, okay? So arash, when we talk about arash, we're really talking about a rosh, okay? And if you can remember, a rosh is a head, okay? That's the head. It's the beginning of something, okay? That's the name for it. So what's some other meanings of it? What does it mean? So he's asking the question, tell me whose daughter are you? Tell me, please. And if there's room in your father's house. So she begins to tell him. She told him who she was. She told him who her father was and her mother. Okay. So this word resh comes from, or rosh comes from the resh and the shin when you put those 2 letters together. And it says the resh is the head of the tribe or family, and which is the father, and is passed from generation to generation. The head grants permission. So this is the reason why we're talking about on Arash, because male is supposed to go to the head of a family, okay, of a tribe, and the chief, or the family, which is the father. So the head of a tribe is going to be a chief. The head of a family is going to be the father, okay? And whether it's something that has to do with the tribe or something that has to do with the family, the head is the one who has to grant permission. So this servant of Abraham's knew that, guess what? I got to find out who your father is in order to get permission. Okay. So for the betrothal of his daughters, and determines the inheritor of the tribe or family. So the father, the head of the house, or the head of the family, or the head of the tribe, is the one who grants permission and also is responsible for the betrothal of his daughters and determines the inheritor, meaning of his son, of the tribe and the family. So this is a very important deal. So just like Abraham is giving his inheritance and finding an inheritor, which is an heir in his family, for a daughter, one has to go and they have to get permission from that father in order to approach that daughter. And this is a big problem for our community as we stand today. Is a big problem for me because I didn't know this. I didn't, I'm 52 years old. I didn't get permission. I did something totally sideways. I didn't do this. And as a result of that, things haven't worked out so well for me because I didn't do this. And if I would have known this, I would have done it the way that Yah asked me to do it. And that's why I always ask my son, like, hey, be respectful. You got to go to the head of that family if you want to be with that daughter. Okay. So with the daughter, you need to be able to get permission. And so now we're going to deal with the father. So now dealing with the father, which is the Aleph Bet, that's how you put his name together, which is our language, which is the Aleph Bet, which is the strong house. Okay. A house that has the Aleph Bet is a strong house. A house that has a father is a strong house. Why? Because the father of the family provides, number 1, strength, number 2, support, and number 3, structure to the household. So the father, he fulfilled many functions for the family. He was the commander of the family army, which we saw with Abraham. He's a provider of offspring. So that's where the support is. Okay. That's where the support is. And right, to continue the family line, and the priest and the teacher. So if you look at these different things that the father provides, or these aspects of what he does, you would see that the strength has to do with his battle. He's battle ready, but also to the strength is to provide an offspring. If you look at the support is to what? To continue the family, right? And be to support as a priest. You support the family through your teaching, and you support them through what you give to them from the Creator. structure, you need a teacher, right, to bring that structure to the family. So this is what our job is. But what we understand is that this is not the case. This is not the case for us. There's a whole bunch of disorder and there's a whole bunch of chaos, okay? Yah tells us in Yeshayahu chapter number 3, verse 12, that my people, their children are oppressing them, okay? And the women are ruling over them, right? So the women are not helping us. They're actually ruling over us. They're not helping us, okay? Our children are not, they're not doing what we tell them. They're actually, they are the oppressors. Okay. When I looked up this word oppressing, right, it's a participle meaning it's continual. And this right here is continual. And this is a result of us not listening to Yah. Okay. So, and the reason for this is simply too, because we did not fulfill our obligations to the covenant. Okay. So his people are being ruled and they're being oppressed. And this word here is nagas. Okay. And the same word that's used for nagas is the same one that was what you would call a taskmaster. They're the ones who are whipping us and beating us into subjection right now, okay? Your guides are leading you astray and obliterate the paths that you should follow. Because when you're being ruled and you're being oppressed, okay, especially by women who are not being there, they're not in their role, you're going to actually go on another path. They're going to destroy the path that you should be following, which is the order. So there's disorder, there's chaos. The word chaos means that there's a lack of order, right? But there's also a lack of light. Because when you're in chaos, you're literally in darkness. And there's nothing that's organized. It's total disorganization. Everything becomes very messy. So I know I talk to a lot of individuals, and including myself, that, you know, you have problems in your home and you're always dealing with your kids and you're dealing with your women. You got to understand that this is where it's at right now. When you get back to the land, this won't be the case. When we get back to the land, the children will not be ruling their parents. And I'm not just talking about ruling the men, I'm talking about ruling the family. The children are oppressing even the mothers. You know, they go into friendships with them and they're making, you know, they're telling them how they feel, and they're not looking at the rulership of the father. Okay. And that's a huge problem. And that's why there's a lot of discontentment. It's simply because people are not in their roles. They're not following what Yah says. Their paths are going to be destroyed. Okay. The mother, her name is right? And what's well, the aleph, it means strength, right? So here you go. The mother's strong too. She's a strong liquid. She's literally the glue of the family. Glue was made by placing hides and other animal parts, you know, the slaughtered animals, into a pot of boiling water. As the hide is boiled, a thick, sticky substance formed at the surface of the water, right? This substance was removed and used for as a binding agent. So now we see this idea again of binding. Okay. So what is a mother supposed to do? She's a strong liquid. She's supposed to bind the family together. If the father is the structure of the home, he provides the structure. She's supposed to be the glue. He's the framework and she's the glue to keep the structure together. She's not the one who's supposed to put the structure of the family together. She doesn't supposed to tell the kids what she thinks. She's supposed to tell them, what did your father say? And what is the structure that we have? So again, you're being oppressed by your children and you're being ruled by your women because they don't want to follow the structure. You understand? And you say, well, what's the man's responsibility? His responsibility is to provide the structure. He has failed. A man who will not follow the Torah, he doesn't have any structure in his home. He doesn't. But even men who do provide structure, I want you to know this. Not attacking anybody to provide structure for a home. And according to what the Torah says, you are going to have people that are going to refuse to do what you say. And we talked about what happens to those who refuse. Okay. It releases you from the obligation. You can't force anybody to do anything. Okay. So her job is to keep the family together. Her job is to make sure that everything is working together like the way that the leader has determined it. That's Yah's order. And where do I get this from? I get this from this idea of an agreement. Okay. When we go into an agreement, we need to understand something. I know there's some of us who haven't been married yet, so I'm gonna try to put on some soft gloves. I don't want to. Sometimes I use a velvet glove with an iron fist, and I don't want that to be the case. I want to be very humble when I say this. Okay, if you're not married, take it for somebody that is married to let you know something. You better have an agreement. You better have an agreement. Because if you don't have an agreement and you haven't outlined, okay, the conditions of the marriage, then you're going to have problems. And matter of fact, as we learned from the negotiations that we learned in our tour this morning, marriage is about negotiations, okay? It's about an agreement. It's about a covenant. It's about an oath, okay? And it's about terms and conditions. Okay, so even though we don't find this actual him saying he did request marriage, we don't see where they go over the terms and conditions of the agreement. But all because it's not mentioned doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Kind of like when it talked about how Rivka went back and she went into her Yitzchak's tent, and then he knew her, and then it became husband and wife. We would assume that immediately when she got off the camel, he went in there and just had sexual intercourse with her and she became his wife. It didn't happen that way. He did not get married by having sex with her, this woman, in a tent without his father first meeting her or the community being presented to the community. So all because that's not mentioned doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So it's because we've been trained to read, and what we read, that's what it is. And that's it. We have no other understanding. That's not how you read the text. According to this, we understand from the culture of the Hebrew people that marriage is a request, right? And what it is an agreement. If you don't have an agreement, you don't have a leg to stand on. Remember, I told you, I won't go in agreement with certain contractors because they won't tell me the conditions and the details of the contract, okay? What I want to be done. You could tell me you can provide the service, but can you tell me that you can provide what I'm asking you? And what are the remedies if you decide not to follow? What is my go-to? What do I have, right? So men that are married and you have a wife that does not do what you ask her to do, listen to me carefully, because there's a lot of men that are listening right now to my voice. And sisters, don't take this personal, because I ain't referring to all you women. If you have a wife that's not listening to you, and you married her and you don't have a contract with her, you need to keep your mouth closed. That's your fault. And whatever you got is what you got. So stop crying about it. You married a woman, you didn't sit down and you didn't tell her the obligations or what the expectations were. And all of a sudden now you want to jam her up because she doesn't wash the dishes the way that you wanted her to do it, or she doesn't cook what you asked her to cook. That's your fault. We have to take responsibility as men and understand, and we have to be wise enough. Now, I was stupid. Okay, I'm stupid. I was ignorant. No one ever told me. And as a result, all because I can't play the blame game now. Well, my dad didn't tell me. My mother didn't tell me. Nobody told me, so I didn't know. No. You do something, you're going to pay for it. You understand? So understand the terms and the conditions. In marriage, you have to spell everything out. And I'm going to briefly talk to you about that today, okay? I have a few minutes. It's an agreement. Here, the days are coming, says Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehuda. It will not be like the covenant I made with their fathers on the day I took them by their hand and brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, because they, for their part, violated my covenant, even though for my part was a husband to them. I'm their husband. I made a covenant with them and I became a husband to them. That word right there, husband, he spelled it out, is Baal. That's the name of a husband in Hebrew. He said, I became a Baal to them. Okay, but they serve Balaim, they serve Baal. Baal means Lord and Master. Okay, so let's get some more information. Okay, the information is this: I'm a husband to you. And where does Baal come from? The Bet, the Ein, and the Lament. The Baal is a master. The Baal is an owner. The Baal is a ruler. A husband is a master. He's an owner and a ruler over everybody and everything in that house. All possessions. But if you were dumb like me, you don't have an agreement. So you know what you're not? You're not the master. You're not the owner, and you're not the ruler. You don't get to do this. You know why? Because you didn't present the other party with accurate information. That's what the bottom line is. And I speak for myself. Well, you must surely, you're still the owner, you're the master, you're the husband. No, I'm not. Not according to what Yah says. Because if you're going to do anything, if you want to live by Yah's commandments, listen to me carefully. You and I are under a covenant with Yah. And Yah did not just tell us something and never put it in what? Writing. What did he write for us, people? What did he write?
He wrote the commandments.
I wrote the 10 words, which are my expectations. And I also had Moshe write the Torah, which includes the Mishpatim, the Kukim, and the Moedim, and all of it. And you were aware of every word I said. And it's in writing. It's in writing, people. You understand? I became your husband, Yahweh says. I became your master. I became your ruler because we got something in writing. We have an agreement together. And I own you. And I'm your master and I'm your ruler unless you refuse for me to be your owner. If you refuse to do what I tell you. You see? So when this servant came to Rivkah, he didn't just come with the gold and the silver and all that, and he didn't just come with the 10 camels. He came with a message. Where does the word all come from? It comes from Baal. That's the root of this word right here, all. And it means upon. Didn't mean to hit that. It means upon. Listen to me. This means upon. That means a staff. Okay. That is not an aleph. It's not an aleph. This is an ayin. And that means the eye. And this is a staff. The eye to the staff, right? Meaning what? Look with the eye at the staff. Look at what? The teaching. I'm directing you with a staff. I need you to set your eye upon my staff because I'm your master, I'm your owner, and I'm your ruler. Because you and I are in a contract together. I have a written agreement with you. That's what I have. And what? I told you earlier. What do they call it? A binding of the yoke to the master, to the servant. That's what all is. To see the authority. Your wife can't see the authority because you never told her. You never told her what your authority was. You never stipulated what the conditions were going to be of the marriage. You never told her that I'm in charge of disciplining my kids. I'm in charge of leading you in the path of Yahweh. And if you want to do it, you didn't give her that opportunity. So why are you crying? This is what the Creator shared with me. Don't you cry about something that you weren't fair in. You were not just. You married a woman that you didn't even tell nothing. You didn't tell. You just married her because you loved her. You weighed the way she looked and how she made you feel. You married her without a purpose. And that's the reason why you get the results that you get. What is this about? It's about the Lamed. That's what this is about. I might be getting divorced after this. It's about a Lamed. It's about learning. That's what this is about. Everything is about learning. Yah is the teacher to all humanity. That's why Yah has brought us into a oath and into a learning environment. This is the reason why he's yoked us to him so we can learn from him. This is the purpose of marriage. Is to get you to love and to learn what? The Torah. To learn to live, to love the Torah. You're supposed to have this agreement so this woman that you get like Rivkah can come back and build the nation and the family that you desire. But if you didn't give Rivkah, you didn't give her an agreement, then how do you think Rivkah is going to be? Let me tell you something about the word Rivkah, which we'll get into in just a moment. Forgive me if I digress. Learning. Listen to the monologue of this man. I might go a little bit over, you guys, forgive me. The monologue was this: but when a meal was set before him, he said, I won't eat until I say what I have to say. Lavan said, speak. The father didn't say it. The brother said it. Why did the father didn't speak up? It has something to do with this man's inability to speak. It has something to do with, they were a household of idol worshipers. Okay. He said, I am Abraham's servant. That's the first words that came out of Abraham's servant's mouth. Before I eat anything, I'm here to do the job I'm sent to do because I'm under an oath. I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to do my job. And as a servant of Abraham, I got to do what I'm told. You and I need to understand something. You and I are a servant as well. We don't say that Aved Abraham Anoki. You and I say Aved Yahweh Anoki. That's what you and I have to say, that I am Yahweh's servant. And Yahweh sent us, and he will. Listen. But you, Yisrael, my servant, Yaakov, whom I have chosen, descendants of Abraham, my friend. I have taken you from the ends of the earth, summoned you from the most distant parts, and said to you, you are my servant. When did I say this? After I came and gathered you from all the different places, from the distant parts of the earth. I have chosen you, not rejected you. Don't be afraid, for I'm with you. Don't be distressed, for I am your Elohim. I give you strength. I give you help. I support you with my victorious right hand. What are some of these things that he gave him? He said, I'm going to give this to you. I'm going to give you strength. Like what? A father. I'm going to give you help. What? Like a father. I'm going to support you. What? Like a father. This is the reason why he's saying this, because he's our father and he's our master and he is our husband. Terms and conditions, every contract. Moshe went up to Elohim, Yahweh, and called to him from the mountain. Here is what you are to say to the household of Yaakov and tell the people of Israel. This was Yahweh's way of saying, I'm going to present you now with an offer. You come up here, Moshe, and I'm going to tell you what I want you to say to the people. Just like I sent Eleazar, Abraham sent him to go give an offer, I'm sending you to go give an offer. This is the offer. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you would pay careful attention to what I say, why would I say? Because I'm your master, and keep my covenant. Then you will be my own treasure from among all the peoples. For all the earth is mine, and you will be a kingdom of Kohanim for me and a nation set apart. These are the words you are to speak to the people of Israel. That's my offer. In any contract, there's an offer and there's acceptance. The person accepts it have to be in their right mind. They have to be in order for it to be a valid contract. Moshe came and summoned the leaders of the people and presented them with these words, which Yahweh had ordered him to say. All the people answered as one. Everything Yahweh has said, we will do. He presented them with an offer. But presenting them with an offer and telling them what it is one thing, but you got to write it out. So Moshe reported the words of the people to Yahweh. You see? So Yahweh is a fair husband. I have not been. Well, I didn't know. No, I haven't been a fair husband. I haven't. any of you husbands that you want to renew something with your wives, then I suggest and I recommend that you find a way to try to come into another agreement. You can do that. You can get another agreement, but then it's a matter of you presenting the agreement to her and whether or not she wants to do it. And that's where you're going to have your problem. Because a lot of women don't want to do the things that we want them to do, not here. And especially if you're following the Most High, it's not going to be the way that he says. It's going to be the way that they think it should be. It's not going to be the way that he says. Because if it is the way that he says, then everything will be fine. Then she'll be a helper. Then you'll be her master. You'll be her owner. You'll be her ruler. If she's not willing for that to be the case, you shouldn't marry her. And if you're stuck in a situation where you're not the master and the owner and the ruler, and you are where you are, you are where you are, you need to be quiet. That's what you need to do. Let's talk about Rivkah. Rivkah is an ensnarer. That's what her name means. She's an ensnarer because of her beauty. But also, too, she has a negative connotation to her name. She literally can be fetters. She can be chains to restrain and withhold you. You understand? So it appears to all of us that, all because she's a woman doesn't mean that you and I cannot, take anything from her character and say, well, she's a woman, so that only applies to her. No, it applies to all of us. We're supposed to learn from all of the people whom Yah has put in our way, because she is the mother. She is one of the mothers of our nation, and she's one of the matriarchs, and she needs to be honored. Okay, she was an ensnarer because of her beauty. She was an ensnarer because of her character. Before he had finished speaking, Rivkah, the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nachor, Abraham's brother, came out with her jug on her shoulder. The girl was very beautiful, a virgin, never having had sexual relationship with any man. She went down to the spring and filled the jug and came up. She had this remarkable character. Remarkable, just like Abraham. When I read this, I understood that she was doing stuff in a very quick and fast manner. It wasn't like she was just taking her sweet time. She went in and she's like, hey, he asked her for something to drink. She said, yeah, sure. She gave it to him. And then she said, I'm going to give it to your camels too. And it talked about how she was very quick about it. She was very speedy about it. Just like the same word that was used when Yahweh came to visit Abraham before he went down to Sodom and Gomorrah, how he ran to them, and how he ran to go get the goat, and how he ran to the tent of Sarah, and how they quickly made haste to be that kind of people. Okay. Hospitality. She was very caring. She was very respectful. She was very willing. She was helpful. She was confident. She was dutiful. You understand? She had a responsibility, very spontaneous, very attentive, and a very hardworking woman. She was the kind of woman that was ready. That's who she was. And this is who we should be. This should be some of the characteristics that you and I, that we hold. There's a lot of negative things that I could have put on here to say the opposite of this, but I don't want to encourage you to do those things. I want to encourage you to do something positive. I want you to do something that can be helpful to your situation, be helpful to the community, because that's why she was brought into the community. That's why she's brought to the family. And this is why we exist. Okay. So she demonstrated the ability to do these things. Okay. And here it is. Proof. Drink, my lord, she replied, and immediately she lowered her jug onto her arm, and she let him drink. And when she was through letting him drink, she said, I will also draw water for your camels until they have drunk their fill. 10 camels, 20 gallons apiece. That's 200 gallons. Easy. She quickly emptied her jug into the trough. Then she ran to the well to draw the water, and kept drawing the water for all his camels. Okay, so it took strength to do this. It was a well, so she had to keep going in and coming out, going in and going out. This young woman was ready. She demonstrated that. When we talked about growth and development, she was ready to do the work. He saw it with his own eyes. And guess what? But remember, he saw it and he's like, I still don't know if my journey has been successful. Still don't know. So you can demonstrate ability. One can have ability, but even if they have ability to do that which is right, the question is, and will always be, is there a desire? Is there a will to do the work that goes beyond what you're doing? Listen, he said, this is after the conversation that he went there and he ate and he gave the terms and conditions and told him everything it was and who Abraham was and how wealthy he was and who Sarah was and what the family was doing and what Yah had said. Her brother and her mother said, let the girl stay with us a few days, at least what? For 10. Let us get these 10 days. And after that, she will go. He answered them, don't delay me. Don't delay me. Since Yahweh has made my trip successful, he's brought this prosperity to me and I have progress here. I have to continue in my progress. So don't delay me in my progress, but let me go back to my master. They said they will call the girl. We will call the girl and see what she says. They called Rivkah and they asked her, will you go with this man? And she replied, I will. That was the whole purpose of the journey. Because that was the question he asked his master. What is she willing to come? She's the one who had to give the answer to the terms and the conditions of not only the contract, but the willingness to be able to do what she was called to do. She has been appointed. And the question for us today is, if you and I are willing to accept this appointment, what Yah had adjudicated for us as his people. That's what this is about. You can have ability, but do you have a willingness? That's what it's about. And then that determines what type of strength you have. It's not the strength of pulling the water. It was the willingness that she was willing to pull the water. It wasn't the strength of her holding the pitcher or getting the 200 gallons for the camels. That's physical strength. Physical strength of human beings is nothing. It's the spirit, it's the willingness, it's your soul. It doesn't matter whether or not you and I are married and we have contracts. It's whether or not the party that you presented the information to, are they willing? You see? So is it, am I willing to give something? If I'm willing to present, are you willing to present? If you're willing to present, you got to give the other person the opportunity to choose if they're willing. And you can't force it on them. Remember, he said, hey, if she takes it, she's willing, you're good. She fulfilled it. You're good. The oath is over. If she refuses, hey, the oath is over. You see? So you and I need to learn from that language. You understand? In context, not only for our earthly lives, but also too dealing with our Creator. He doesn't want anything from us if you and I are not willing to do it. Our people said everything he said we will do. So at least what we have is a contract. And you need to go over the contract, which is the Torah, which you have been doing. Go over the contract and ask yourself, am I willing to be the wife that he's asked me to be? Okay. He didn't go in there and say, well, let me put this in the contract to see whether or not she is going to do it. If you notice, everything is what his expectations are of them. That's what I'm saying. Even if a man is to marry a woman today and put a contract in front of her, she has to be willing to accept the offer about what her responsibilities are to her master. Because if you get married to a man today and you're not married and you're going to marry him, you have to know what the obligations are. Do you have the strength? Do you have the fortitude? Do you have the will? Do you have the desire? Do you have the mind to say, well, you know what? I want this man to teach me. I want him to teach my children. I want this man to be the priest of my home. I want that. You understand? That's what that's about. Okay. It's not the Jewish, idea behind, well, you know what? You got to do this and this and that. They got some different elements that are part of what they call a ketubah, which it kind of is really off base. They make things very, very difficult because it doesn't work for our community because we don't have those type of resources. We don't have that. Okay. But with any contract that we know that we're in, there's also terms and conditions that are attached to a curse. Like if you guys don't follow the obligations of the covenant, this is going to happen to you. So even in your ketubah and even in your agreement with your wife, there should be consequences if she doesn't fulfill the obligations of her covenant, period. Because that's what it's going to be when you get to the land. You get a wife when you go back to the land, it's going to be contract. It's not going to be, I love you. It's going to be a contract. And it's going to be, this is what it is. Do you want to be underneath this? And it can't be because I love you and you're handsome and you're going to give me beautiful kids. It can't be that. It has to be what is it that I'm going to have to be responsible for? What am I going to do? I'm going to have to be a helper. Okay. That's what this is about. What's next? Bereshit 25:19 through 28:9 next week, coming up tomorrow. And the book of Malachi, my messenger, chapter number 1, verse 1 through 2. Chapter 1 through chapter 2, verse 7. Any questions? Any contributions? Any remarks? Any statements?
I
Can you
have
show
one.
what's next? Can you show what's next again, please?
Oh, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for that. Let me see. Here you go. What's next is Bereshit, Genesis chapter number 25, verse number 19 through chapter number 28, verse 9. That's where you start and that's where you stop. Malachi chapter number 1, verse 1 to chapter number 2, verse 7. Now, the book of Malachi will actually be working in conjunction with the actual portion of Bereshit. Okay, so you're gonna be able to find some different things. Okay, this last week we read in First Kings, which correlate with the Torah portion that we have, but there's so much information I don't have enough time. You know, maybe next round I'll be able to do it. Okay. Okoti, you had a question?
Yes, and I apologize for not being able to raise my hand. I am not on my own computer and I can't figure out how to do it on this
Oh,
one.
no worries at all.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Shabbat Shalom. I
Shabbat
just
shalom.
wanted to, yes, I wanted to thank you so much for the lesson period. I learned a whole lot. Thank you also for going into, I think it's pronounced Koach, about how the Most High, you know, when he deals with you, it's with a strong hand. That has definitely been my experience over the years and my husband's experience, to the point in where sometimes I hear people, especially the Hebrewians, the Hebrew Christians, and they're going about the Ruach Kodesh and how it gently did this. And then I realized we're not dealing with the same power. At all. Yeah, because you know when he corrects you and when he moves you, you definitely know. In fact, it takes a while to even recover from it. So all praises to the Most High. I wanted to ask you if you could speak to something, because you talked about it this week in your other two classes. And again, because of the time difference, and I am unable to attend, but it's really something that's going on in our community right now. You know, people are speaking about, you know, the command of Zephaniah. I believe it's 2 and 1. And I think it's just really not having the proper understanding of Torah to be able to extract and understand the prophet. So they're saying that, you know, we should be gathering ourselves together right now, regardless of what, you know, of idolatry, if someone's in IUIC and all these things, that our command is to gather ourselves together. And when I read, you know, when you rebuke that, you hear scriptures like Ezekiel 36 and 25, where the Most High says, I'm going to take you from the land. I'm going to cleanse you of your idols. I'm going to put a new heart on you. That our only job right now is to awaken and to follow these 10 commands. And I just wanted to see if you could speak to that, to give people clarity. This week, you spoke a lot about separating ourselves. You did in your teaching about befriending the wicked. And so it's just two different schools of thought that are going on right now based on a misunderstanding of Torah. And I just hoping you could speak on that.
Well, thank you for that question. Yeah, I have been trying to deal with that because we have people, and of course, the people that you're hearing actually believe that they actually have the spirit of the living Elohim living and abiding with them. So, this idea of us gathering ourselves, like he talks about in Zephaniah, he's actually talking to the people that were in the actual city of Yerushalayim before this destruction was about to come, right? And the reason why they wanted them to gather is in order to prevent the destruction from coming. That's why he's asking them to come on, gather yourselves, come, let's pray, let's fast, let's take some type of action before this great and terrible day, because Yah has been prophesying to them that, hey, this is going to happen. And they weren't listening. So this idea for us right now to gather, it is literally impossible. It's not, see, what happens is people begin to bring things on what they call the spiritual level, and they really don't look at it from a practical level, right? The practicality of all of us coming together and gathering is impossible. We're scattered to the four corners of the earth. We're all in different time zones. It's just not, and it makes people feel a certain way. You begin to say, hey, I can't do certain things. That same book, which could be refreshing for us, is in chapter number 3. It says to us that it was a prophecy, right? God says that chapter number 3, verse number 8, I'm going to read it. Therefore, wait for me, says Yahweh, for the day when I arise to witness against you, when I decide to assemble nations and gather kingdoms together to pour on them my indignation and all my furious anger, for all the earth will be consumed in the fire of my passion. For then I will change the peoples so that they will have pure lips, and I will call on the name of Yahweh, all of them, and to serve him with one accord. Okay. And then he goes on to talk about all the different people he's going to do that. So what they're doing is they're trying to make something happen that hasn't happened. Yah's indignation and judgment for us as a people and all the nations has not happened yet. And you quoted Ezekiel, which I talked about in 36 and in 37, where he says that you guys are filthy, you're unclean. You can't, what's the purpose of you gathering and you're unclean? What's the purpose of you gathering and you don't have somewhere to gather? What's the purpose of you gathering to come together if there's no priesthood? What's the purpose of you gathering when there's no temple? What's the purpose of, what are we supposed to gather at where? What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to gather at some of these buildings that they claim that Yahweh's name is there and that he's there and his spirit is here and all this ridiculous foolishness? Or they don't have it just seems like they don't even understand what's going on, because they don't read, they don't want to see this. The people that he's talking about, when he says these rebels, and you and I were thinking these are the past tense, right? No, they're actually rebelling today. So when you hear this idea of us gathering and all that, those are rebels. Like you said, it's completely different. The message that you're hearing from me is completely different than you're hearing from somebody else. And I think that's what attracts people to this channel, is because they finally understand, like, wait a minute, we are in bad shape. Man, we have broken the covenant. Oh, wait a minute, we are in the lands of our enemies. Oh man, his hand is on us right now. We're not even blessed. We don't see this. Yah is not, he's not walking among us. We're not living among him. So, and then they've diminished the value of our people. They diminish the value of Yah's spirit. They minimize him so they can maximize themselves. And that's what you see. So no.
Yes, I believe a lot of people were speaking about it like we were supposed to, the athlete and the rapper that recently spoke out, that we were supposed to really support and gather them, even though they, we didn't hear certain things, like the Torah wasn't mentioned and the name of the Most High wasn't mentioned, and that we were supposed to just be, even the Torah community, just be 100%.
No, if you did listen to what I said, Yah says, why have you befriended them?
Yes.
If you look, those who hate Yahweh are the ones who don't do what he says. There's no other clear terms that I can put it in. You know what I mean? If Yah is our master, right? He says, I'm all to you. I'm your master. I'm your owner. You do what I say. That's why he has the right to tell us, this is what I want to be done in my house. You see? And so he keeps telling us that you guys are not listening to what I said. So you're not listening to your master. You don't have any idea or clue what I'm talking about. You refuse to do what I said. And so because you refuse, I'm going to give you this last opportunity while you're in your exile to look at the contract. I need you to look at the contract. I need you to see whether or not you want me to be your master. Because if you don't want me to be your master, as Moshe told you, I'm going to destroy you. Our covenant with Yah is based on survival. Okay. I didn't have the scripture in there, but it tells you can go look it up for yourself. It's in Deuteronomy. Leviticus chapter number 26. He tells us, if I was to destroy the covenant, if I was to break the covenant that you and I have, the agreement, I'd have to kill every last one of you. I have to destroy you. If I broke my covenant, if I broke my end, I didn't say that he broke his covenant. You and I broke the covenant as a wife. Okay. Not only by being a whore and an idolatrous, but also not doing what he says. That's why it's important for us as men and women to understand how this community is supposed to be ran. It's not, Sister Okoti, Azania, is not going to be the way that we want it to be. Not now. Not now. The little bit that you and I have right now on Zoom is what we have. The people that are gathering around us right now who said, I'm going to keep the Torah, is just very few.
Yes.
Very few. And these rappers, I don't care who they are. I don't care who they play with. I don't care how much money they have. I don't care what they do. If they're not talking about the Torah, because the Torah is the purpose of our lives. You see?
Yes.
So that's what it is, and you have to figure it out. You got to figure it out.
Yes. Toda, thank you so much.
Anyone else? If not, praise be to the living Elohim. Shabbat shalom to you. I hope you guys were able to derive some information from this teaching today. I shared everything I share with you according to what Yah has said to us. And, moving forward, we have to understand that we're appointed. This is what we are. We're appointed. We have been adjudicated to be the wife that he wants us to be. And therefore, we have to follow what he says. And that's what it is. And it is not going to be anything else. And so that same type of pattern has to be followed. It has to be. And I know a lot of us have been married for several years, and, we face challenges all the time, and some of us have gotten married under false pretense. What it is, we don't know. And it's not fair to the other party. There's two parties involved. Like, for example, with Yah, is Yah and the children of Israel. For you, it's you and your wife. You got to be fair. So I tell you, men, got to be fair. And if you don't have nothing in writing, it's not fair and it's not just for you to say or expect anything. Nothing. And if you want to get something else, I guarantee you, go put it on paper and then put it in front of another woman and ask her if she'll do it. And you'll see what she'll get too. You might get somebody willing. You may not. Who knows? But that's what it is. Hallelujah. Anyone else? Well, Shabbat shalom to each and every last one of you. And I'll see you later on today for lesson number 7 that we're going to be in our Hebrew class starting at 4:00 today. Hallelujah, Pacific Standard Time.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.